Hi everyone, welcome to Three Cups Tarot readings to uplift the collective. And today I wanted to do a reading to help us all figure out what exactly it is that we need to release. I myself have been getting messages over and over again that I need to release something, let go of the baggage to ascend and move on to the next phase of life. But it's been a little bit difficult to figure out exactly what it is that I need to release. And I ironically asked asked and didn't expect an answer, but got my answer just before I planned to do this reading. So I planned to do this reading to get an answer for myself as much as for the collective. And I received my answer in very awesome ways from spirit guides. First was a Facebook memories pop-up from 7 years ago where I happened to see someone who hurt me in the past, and I realized that I was able to just see them as another person instead of like a symbol of evil. And I was able to release anger specifically in that circumstance, in that situation. And I then saw another kind of headline pop up in my feed about releasing anger, a totally separate upload. It wasn't my upload. It was somebody else's, and I realized that's exactly what I need to release this time around again. So I actually did pull the cards for all three piles, and I pulled a separate pile of cards for my own answer, but I felt compelled to record that as well. So I'm not including it in the pick a card section, but if you intuitively feel that you resonate with my story and you would benefit from the message in the pile I intended for myself, then we're definitely on the same life path, and you could also watch reading number 4 together with me. So these are your three options. Otherwise, for you to see if you're being intuitively drawn to one or several of the options. The first is the Four of Pentacles. The second is the Two of Wands. And the third is the Ace of Wands. So these are the cards I intended to answer directly. What is it that you need to release exactly? And then I pulled several cards to give all of us advice on how to do it first, and then spiritual guidance second, and then like little pep talk, like maybe affirmations for us to bring along as we go about releasing exactly what it is we need to release. So take all the time you need to kind of engage with the images, the wording, and see where you're being drawn to. And I will see you in your readings or readings ahead. Hi, reading one. So you were drawn to the Four of Pentacles card. I think this is such a beautiful card. It's very symmetrical looking to me. And I'm particularly drawn to like the orbs. But what I'm noticing for you, what you need to release exactly is to do in the realm of financial security, stability, that was it sacral? No, the root chakra energy pretty much is your area of focus for what you need to release. So if I had to name it exactly, I would say what you need to release is your fear of insecurity, your fear of chaos, and your belief that you cannot attain stability and security in a material, financial way for yourself in this lifetime. That belief in what's possible for you and the hope of what's possible for you is really an important part of your life path and what you're able to rekindle and hold on to, retain for yourself in a very permanent, everlasting way. So releasing your fears of of being in a world that is unpredictable and out of control. Kind of unpredictable, like my little baby cat here. Oh, just give me a second. Hi again, reading one. So, yes, what exactly do you need to release, or are you being encouraged to release? It's this Four of Pentacles energy, stacking up your coins. This is the other interpretation. So on the one side, it could be limiting beliefs about what you're able to accumulate in this lifetime or what you're deserving of. On the other hand, it could be an overshooting in accumulation. So I mean, it could be as simple as only focusing on savings and not releasing any of that hold on the savings to make smart or meaningful investments in yourself or in your finances or your assets in some way. It could go in both directions. I mean, and it could also be as extreme as like hoarding or collecting things and just accumulating without any sort of flow behind the things that you accumulate and the money behind it. Um, Things are meant to flow in and out of your life. If there's some kind of like savings or collections, a lot of times those are considered, like valuable activities or practices, and that the hope is eventually one day it'll increase in value. But it could get to the point where it's actually kind of more of coming from a place of needing to feel secure, that this practice of accumulating is really just serving an immediate emotional need to feel some sort of security and is not really the financial investment that you hope it will be. So you may actually, in that other interpretation, need to release not only your hold on limiting beliefs about finances and material security, but also you might need to release actual things in your life, like actual materials. It doesn't have to mean that you live like a simplified lifestyle. It's more just about looking around you and acknowledging what is there, because it's just another thing that's there to make you feel like you're safe because you have things around you, and what's actually there because it is serving a purpose in your life. So things that don't really serve a purpose or have a meaning must go, that kind of energy. And I'm really getting like the Marie Kondo kind of vibes, where you could kind of thank the object or the energy for being in your life, but acknowledge also that it's time for you to move on and to release that thing from your life as well. Okay, so I'm going to pull some oracle cards to give us an idea of how you can go about releasing this thing from your life, and advice on the more spiritual, the higher meaning of it, and how to support yourself as you go through it. So, how to release. You're getting boundary cloak, gentle, loving protection, number 26. I think it's so interesting that this figure is almost feeling safe and secure, like what we've been talking about here, with this cloak. The first idea that I have is how you can release these things and this like kind of overblown accumulation is to find other ways to make yourself feel gently and lovingly protected. It could be that you have a blanket, something as simple as a blanket, like a weighted blanket, and getting inside a blanket. That would do the trick for you. So you don't need to like collect more and more bottles of wine or more and more shoes. It's really just about having the one meaningful blanket around you that gives you that mental alleviation. And so that's just one example. I mean, you can spread it out to other examples. So I'm also thinking of like this figures in a garden. You can cultivate the environment around you in not so much of a material way, but like in an organic way, right? If you like cultivate a garden around you, if that's something that makes you feel safe, then that's something that's meaningful and worthwhile for collecting. Yeah, it's all about finding the right balance and hitting the right number of what's serving you in your life and not going over that to what's kind of holding you back just because it's excessively there in your life. So let's get a message on the spiritual advice, the spiritual meaning for this. It says, be like your spirit guide, number 16. And so you have a figure here flying behind another figure. And so I feel the message here is that travel light, right? Let go of your attachment to material things so that there's more emphasis on the spiritual lightness of your experience in life. It could also be, if we're talking about the first interpretation, it could also be about freeing yourself to dream bigger than you've ever allowed yourself to dream before. And so some loving support as you go through this is, I deserve to live in an atmosphere of joy and acceptance. I love that it says an atmosphere, because this came through before about you creating the atmosphere of safety, security, and joy and acceptance rather than attaching those to things, because the things are what you're being encouraged to release because you don't need them to create that loving atmosphere. You can create it yourself from nothing around you or for immaterial things around you. And last, you're getting for encouragement, just do your best. It will be enough. You don't have to perfect the system. Just try one thing at a time, one day at a time. Maybe do one donation round. Maybe the next month, sell some things and gain some cash. Just do your best bit by bit, and it will be enough to release you from this, but also for you to release this energy from your life. And that's your message for what exactly do you need to release. And I hope that was helpful to you. Thank you so much for watching, and for any likes, shares, subscribes, and comments. And if you were drawn to another reading, I will see you there. And if not, I hope to see you next time. Hi, reading two. So you were drawn to the Two of Wands card, and I love that this is an image. This is very unlike most Two of Wands that you'll encounter, but I love that it's an image kind of just like going off into the horizon, and you don't know how far this path goes. So I'm really feeling for you that what exactly do you need to release? You need to release the plan, however that's resonating for you. So if you have a plan about how your life should go, a plan about maybe how your career should go, or maybe it's more in the area of your family or your expectations of children, whatever plan is kind of dominating your life and you feel in your core like that's kind of the plan we're talking about, this is your message, is that you need to release that plan because there's something over the horizon that you can't even imagine, and but it's everything that you wanted, and it's also meant to be part of your path. Yeah, let's get some oracle cards to clarify that. Excuse me. So this card is meant to be advice for how to release what you need to release, and so you're getting breathe. Healing with your breath, number 5. So how can you release this plan? I see you using breathing exercises to center yourself, also meditation to relax yourself. I feel that this is a message that you have this plan as a coping mechanism, maybe to feel a sense of control in a chaotic time or a chaotic life. I think this is maybe the way you've learned to respond to life in order to feel stable in some way. And it's to the point now where it's not serving you in the way it used to or the way it needs to, because you are safer, you are more secure than you have been in the past, in which planning got you through from point A to B in tough times. But now that you have a stable foundation, your guides are asking you to use a different sort of processing or strategy to address your emotional responses to chaos or whatever you're feeling chaotic, so that instead of turning to planning, you're turning to support yourself, which then opens up possibilities away from the plans you are making. It's almost like you are planning compulsively to make yourself feel better, but at the same time, you are committing yourself to a path that wasn't your highest path by doing that. If you find another way to cope by breathing, by meditating, you'll be getting rid of that system because you'll be supporting yourself, so you won't be making these plans that draw you into many different unintended directions just so that you feel more safe. And then also, when you breathe and you meditate, your vision for the high path, the highest path for you, the right path, will become more clear. That's incredible. I think that's a really cool message. So we're also going to pull some cards for this will be like how this contributes to your spiritual path. So this says success isn't what you have, it's what you do with what you have. Number 28. Interesting. So let's link that to like what we were saying about planning. Success would be the endpoint of that plan, right? The result. And so your spiritual path is talking about here that success isn't about that endpoint. It isn't about what you accumulate. It's what I would interpret this as what you've learned and the actions that you take after you've reached the endpoint of that path. I think this is another message that If you feel like insecure because you feel like you haven't accumulated something at the end of your path, don't think of it that way. You have accumulated knowledge and ideas and strategies and the ability to take action on the next step. And that is the real success of the path that you've been taking. So you might be at this point where you're kind of like, where do I go next? Where do I go next? I can't see the horizon. I can't see ahead. And that's why your guides are telling you to just breathe and get centered, because you will see it. But the other part of that is that if you kind of saw where you're at now as successful, then that would also change your perspective on where to go next. It would change your perspective on making the next step matter based on what you have accomplished now at the end of this path, however that's ringing true for you. So, for example, say that you've been working a job for the past few years and you're coming to the point now where you're deciding to move on from it. Doesn't feel like the right fit for you. And so in that way, you're kind of thinking of all the hopes and the expectations that weren't met, and the reason, and also that the fact that you're leaving, and you're kind of framing it as a failure, or not, or at least not successful as you would have hoped it to be. Your guides are saying to reframe that thought and see this job as reaching its natural completion, and that it's not what you have at the end of this path, it's what you do with what you have. So what skills have you gained? What connections have you made? What insights, personal insights on what truly makes you happy have you gained? That makes this experience, this job, a true success as intended. And so we're going to take these last two cards as just kind of like pep talk advice for you as you continue on this path. So you have first, with joy, I recognize my perfection and the perfection of life. Interesting, coming off this last message of success. So this is, your guides are also asking you to redefine perfection in addition to success. You might be a bit of a perfectionist, and that might be making you miserable. They're asking you to kind of flip that around and think of the world as perfect already, and kind of greet that with joy, recognizing the perfection in you and in life. Even what's felt like a failure was actually a perfect failure. It was a success in the sense that it was a perfect failure. And then your last piece of pep talk is, it's your weirdness that makes you wonderful. Oh, it's a little shiny, but yeah, so what the unicorn horn is really standing out. If you discovered through whatever endpoint you're meeting on this journey that you just don't fit into what you had chosen, that path that you committed to before, maybe out of a survival instinct, suppressed some part of your personality and you just weren't fitting in, it's your weirdness that's guiding you in the right path. Embracing the wonderful weirdness in you, the uniqueness, is what you're meant to do, and it will lead you true to the path you need to be. So that's your message for what exactly do you need to release. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you for any likes, shares, subscribes, and comments. And I hope that helped you. If you were drawn to another reading in the pick a card section, I will see you there. And if not, I hope to see you in the next reading. Hi, reading 3. So you were drawn to the Ace of Wands card in answer to what is it that you really or exactly need to let go of. And I'll talk about that a bit, and then we'll get into the rest of the cards, which are intended to show you how to release. this and advice and like pep talks for going about that release coming up next. So, what exactly do you need to release? I see this as releasing the idea that there is a perfect idea, there is a perfect start to something that you want to do. So, it's a little bit of there's a project or direction that you want to go, and you know what you want it to kind of look like in the end or in the middle, but you haven't yet started it because you've been waiting for that perfect start, the perfect conditions, the perfect amount of money saved, the perfect free time. There's something that's been stalling this start, and your messages, it's all kind of down to you. There's not going to be a perfect start. Whenever you start this, in whatever conditions it is, whatever timing, is going to be the right start for you. So that's one interpretation, is a little bit of a, I don't want to say like procrastination, but more of just like really waiting to start based on the idea that there's such a thing as a perfect start. And so you're being asked to release that idea that there's a perfect start. There's not. The other interpretation is that you have already started this, and it's like you're kind of in the middle of this project or direction that you've taken in life. It is inspired, it is divinely inspired, but you're now looking back at the starting point from where you started, and you're going through the what ifs. What if I started it this way? What if I waited longer? What if I had more money? And so it's almost the same energy, that it's almost like you're erasing the start. It's like you're going back to square one when you really don't have to, because it's the same message for you. There is no perfect start. The what ifs don't matter. Where you're at now is right for you. So this is the thing you need to release. If it's not resonating for you, maybe try another reading that in the first minute or two, I'll do something similar so you can kind of determine for yourself if it resonates or not. So let's get directions for you or suggestions on how to release this. So you're getting past self, connecting with what was, number 33. That really matches with what the second interpretation, right? Looking back at the start that you have already made, maybe even your start to life, and kind of questioning what if things were different. And especially because you have the number 33, this is the master teacher number. It's also the divine feminine number. Any like repeating threes, I take it that way. There's whatever was in the past has shaped you to who you are now, on this path to the master teacher, on this path to the embracing those divine feminine qualities, mastery over the power and the gifts of that you can bring into the world. So you are right where you need to be. And so what your recommendation is just to really just like acknowledge what you have in front of you, rather than drawing your attention to the start that you had, whether in life or in this project or this direction that you're taking. One way you can release this focus on looking behind you or looking ahead for the perfect start is to look around you at what you have right now. Look at what the past has given you, the resources and the tools, even if they're entirely internal and personality resources. It could be knowledge too, psychological resources. It doesn't need to be material. You have something you have enough to get this thing started, or to also follow through with it if you've already started. So we're going to take this card as guidance from your spirit team. So this says, share the gift. Oh, number 4. That's pretty much what I mentioned in this card when I was talking about you becoming the master teacher, embracing the divine feminine. It's because you're meant to share that mastery, those insights, that knowledge. And I would say it's more of like a way of being in the world. It's like you're going to be a role model for how people can face life and conduct themselves around others to bring about more light in the world. And it's wonderful that you have the hand here. So I feel another message here. If you feel like you're waiting on inspiration, you're waiting on that winning idea, you already have it within you. You can already share it. It's that well baked already. And then let's take these cards as a little pep talk for you as you go about releasing this from your life. The work I do on myself is not a goal, it is a process, a lifetime process. I choose to enjoy the process. That's interesting, coming next to past self, right? And the Ace of Wands. So you have like the past, the beginning, and then you have this framing of thinking of the work you do and your life not as the start point or an end point, but more of a process that lasts a lifetime, something that you enjoy. So when you look back on the start, this Ace of Wands, think of it in a cyclical way, that you're always starting, you're always on the process, and you're always at some point of completion. It's not like necessarily so linear. If you think of it in a more circular type of way, I think that will help you let go of this idea of like, oh, you want to start over, you want this perfect start. Yeah, that phrase start over has come in strong. So if you've said that to yourself, like you just want to restart, you just want to start over, this is definitely your message that there's no such thing as a perfect start and you're doing great. So let's get our last pep talk from Thera-pets. There's no need to be so hard on yourself. You're managing as best you can. And just always remember that whatever point you are, whatever point you return to, you're always doing the best you can. And it is enough, as we said from the beginning. You are on the right path. You're on this master path. And I'm now picking up like a perfectionist vibe. It doesn't need to be perfect to work. It doesn't need to be perfect to bring in the light, to accomplish what you are set out to do in this lifetime. And I'm going to leave your message there. Thank you for watching. I hope that meant something to you. And thank you for any likes, shares, and subscribes always. And if you are drawn to another reading in that pick a card section, I will see you there. And if not, wishing you well, and I hope to see you next time. Hi, reading 4. So if you resonated with my experience, this is going to be the reading that you and I shared together. So I'm going to switch to narrating this or reading this in we instead of you. And so the cards that I drew for us are the 5 of Wands and the Fool card. And so if you remember, what we need to release exactly is our anger. And so this is for a couple of reasons with the 5 of Wands. Anger is acting as a roadblock for the things we want to do in life. It's almost like a worldview that prevents us from seeing a pathway forward in certain situations. That's what I feel with the 5 of Wands. But if we cleared it by releasing the anger, then possibilities open up. It's almost like anger in this situation is a limiting viewpoint that kind of tells us like what we can and can't do in life. But if we process it and let it go, then we have a different framework, a different perspective on what we can and can't do in life. That's the recommendation. With the Fool, it's also like the anger needs to be released. Then the anger is meant to be cleared and not to be held on to. That's just kind of how emotions are meant to be functioning in our lived experience anyways. The cycle needs to complete. The emotional reaction that the anger is a part of needs to complete. It's part of a cycle, and it's not meant to be a fixture in our lives. And so when it's released, and I feel this as released as it can be many ways. It could be expressed in some way. It could be acknowledged. And when I say it could be expressed, you could just like scream into a pillow or something. Or what are some of those like those rooms like where you can break things? There are many like outlets for anger. So it may be that you don't know many ways to express your anger because it was conditioned in you, like it was in me, to suppress it or to not express it or to feel not allowed to be angry. It wasn't appropriate, and it wasn't an appropriate reaction or a legitimate emotion to feel. That's kind of what's keeping it stuck. And so that's why not only do you need to release it, but you also need to find ways to release it. So with that said, our next card is going to give us advice on how do we release the anger. And we're getting focus, being deliberate with your attention, number 32. That's interesting. Focus, being deliberate with your attention. I interpret this as taking the anger piece by piece. It might be overwhelming. There might be a lot of other emotions and other things that we're angry about all bundled up together. And so kind of like focus would help to untie that knot, that tangle of emotions. So when you feel anger, it might be that you don't know that you're angry because it's attached to another emotion and you bring more focus on the other emotion. So for example, maybe you feel sad, but you don't always acknowledge that underneath the sadness, there's actually anger. And so when you are able to focus in on what is the emotion that you're feeling, what brought that emotion on, and maybe what is it reminding you of, what are you attaching it to, like from your past, then you start to untangle that knot. And I really feel this as a slow process, a deliberate process that can't be rushed. And so really like just becoming aware of when you're feeling emotions, possible anger especially, to make time for yourself, to give yourself time to step out from life for a bit, focus and bring in the supports for yourself. Give maybe it takes like half an hour to sit down and start to really examine what's going on within you. And it feels like a massage, like once you find that knot, that muscle knot, and you can really pinpoint what's going on there, then you know how to relieve that tension. And then once it's done, it's done. And of course, maybe that muscle knot might come back and you need to handle it again. But just with repetition, deliberate attention, you can manage this anger. You can process this anger, and to the point that you can release it. So let's get this card as guidance from our spirit team. It says, send out help to others. Number 7. Interesting. Send out help to others. I feel like if you feel like you identify with being like a light worker, or you just feel that your purpose on earth is to help others in some way, this releasing the anger is going to facilitate the other work that you do in helping others. You might have already noticed that it's getting in the way, like the anger that you hold inside is getting in the way of this work. And so it's simple as that. This is going to help you on your life path towards helping others. I want to pull our last cards as something that's like a pep talk, like advice as we go about releasing what we need to. I am part of the harmonious whole, as we all are, and lifetime after lifetime, I am a shining spirit, a beautiful light. Yeah, you are a light worker. This is definitely a confirmation, especially here with the Fool and the Sun. This is going to help you shine your light much better. It's going to help connect you back into the harmonious whole, where you can help others just simply by being connected in a very kind of holistic, or how would I say this, like in a healed way. This will help you connect to others in a healed way and just naturally help them by being and doing that. One more piece of advice. You're strong, smart, and you got this. So you are completely capable of releasing this anger. You are smart enough to figure out the ways that work best for you, the techniques, the strategies. You're aware enough to be able to reflect on what your process is, how you're becoming angered or not. And you're strong enough to work through it and revisit it day after day until you really work through all of your anger, but also you're also able to I guess treat it as just part of the process of everyday life, acknowledging that maybe you'll need to go back and process anger time and time again, but that's okay. That's just a part of life, and you have strategies to do that. So I'm going to leave our reading there. I hope that was helpful to you. Thank you for watching, and thank you for any likes, shares, subscribes, and comments. And if you are drawn to another reading in the Pick a Card section, I'll see you there. And if not, I hope to see you next time.